Hello gents, and welcome to another battle report. This time I've decided I'm pulling out my lizards. Finally we have a new book and I'm actually excited to play them again. No more bullshit from the slan. Actually just an interesting army, and I can field a Carnosaur without dipping into my Lord slots, so I'm thrilled. So what we have here is a Battle for the Past game. I'm playing against Orcs and Goblins. Not thrilled to play Battle for the Past. It's got a lot of war machines, but we'll see how it looks. So my army is starting here on the left, up by an Hekaran Sphinx, hiding behind it. I have a unit of 8 Chameleon Skinks. Then you can see 2 units of Saurus warriors with spears. Behind the second Saurus warrior unit, there's a frog in a unit of skink cohorts. I'm quite happy with dirt cheap skinks as a bunker for my slan. So we've got banners and musos everywhere just because I don't leave home without them. Just in front of that slan is a unit of skink skirmishers. I have a Heavens priest in there. I know a lot of people are really fond of the new option to take beasts with that skink priest. I really like Heavens because Heavens gives me a dirt cheap signature spell and a pretty good chance of getting harmonic convergence as my second spell, which I did in this case. And that just fits the whole cheap casting that high magic brings, that you keep throwing these small buffs and guys can't really stop everything, and you can get 2 to 3 spells through a turn quite easily. So I'm sticking with Heavens over there, and he's carrying my Dispel Scroll. My frog has the channeling staff combo with the 3 channels, but once again my frog has just absolutely shat the bed when it comes to that. I get out-channeled in this game, which is quite scary. Last time I brought him out was against Tomb Kings and the same thing happened, so I'm beginning to think he's a bit cursed. Anyway, as you can see up in front of all that, I have a Carnosaur, and then we start pushing off towards the left, towards the right. We have a nice big unit of Croxigors. I've always liked big monstrous infantry units, and Croxigors being back up to strength 7 and now getting predatory fighter, I have to bring them out. And then off onto the far right, you can see a big unit of Razordons. Apologies right up front. Those paying attention will notice that 3 of those Croxigors look suspiciously like rat ogres, and 3 of the Razordons look suspiciously like Nurglings. I don't quite have those models, so we're proxying this game. Anyway, I like the big Razordon units. It gives me some good targets for the high magic, and they can fight and shoot, and they pose significant threats in both phases. It also means it's a single target as opposed to splitting up into multiple units. It's a single target for those buff spells, and really those buff spells are scary. If I can get harmonic convergence off on them, that's frightening. Hand of Glory obviously is terrifying. Even things like Walk Between Worlds are really violent little additions. So now we look at my opponent's side of the table. So we've got there on the far side, on the left far side of the Sphinx, we have ourselves a Doom Diver. Yeah, one of 2. We have, very unusually, a unit of Savage Orc Archers. Small unit, and he's got a level 4 wizard in there. You can't see it at the top of that tower, but at the top of that Orky tower we have a Rock Lobber. And then, pushing along, we see a nice unit of 70 Night Goblins. There's Fanatics in there, there's Nets in there. There's actually 3 characters in there. There's a Goblin War Boss, there's 2 level 1s Wizards, and what looks like a massive eagle there. That's my opponent's Mangless Wig. We then have, moving along to the right, a unit of 2 chariots, a pump wagon, and a unit of 2 trolls, all sitting in front of a unit of 40 orc big guns. And inside there we have a Black Orc BSB and an Orcish Warboss. So that's obviously his really big hammer to make life difficult. We can also see on the right of that there's 2 units of Squig Hoppers. He's trying them out. He really likes the idea. Both kind of agreed after this game and a couple previously that they're a nice idea for friendly games, but they're not a particularly competitive option. Not with too much around having initiative to kill them before they hit. And then there's obviously a second Doom Diver over there. And then off to the far right there's another single Wolf Chariot. So he has a lot of early threat projection to start whittling me down. Most importantly is the amount of war machines he has forces me to come to him while getting in range of all of his early hitting power. So an interesting list. Only one real hitty unit, for which I'm quite grateful. But yeah, he's got all the ranged ability to make me work for it. Okay, so on to my turn 1 then. So now we dive into turn 1. I obviously took turn 1, as you can see from movement here. Quick note, if you look at the top left there, you'll see his Doom Diver is nicely screened by his Spider Riders, and this was actually a very clever little tactic he used. He deployed his Spider Riders quite a bit further back to deny me space to deploy my Chameleon Skinks, and he did the same thing with the Bolt Thrower to push it back to make sure I couldn't be behind his lines. And obviously on the far right, that second unit of Squig Hoppers. But he then used his Vanguard move to come up and protect his Doom Diver once he'd seen where my Chameleons were deployed. So with one little unit he's managed to block off both portions of access to his Doom Diver. A very nice little tactic and worth noting. So anyway, I'd move on out. I want to shoot those spiders. I'm hoping to panic them and have the Doom Diver panic. Every round of not getting Doom Divered is a fantastic round in my opinion. So I move up the Chameleons. I march on up as fast as I can with the Saurus, and I'm playing a little more cautious with the Carnosaur, mostly because I don't like the notion of being hit by a Mangler Squig, and Fanatics aren't exactly thrilling me either. And we see on the other side we have I'm again being fairly cautious, with the exception of these Croxigors, who are marching up as fast as they can, because that's the threat I want to kind of divert his attention to. I need to engage with those, and I need to have multi-combats going to actually break these blocks. Okay. And of course my bunker is just marching on up behind them. Magic is quite interesting. So you can see I've pushed the skink skirmishers off to the right of the Croxigors, mostly just to get my priest up there so I can channel the damage spell through. And again, that channeling ability is a really nice addition to the Toads. It's okay, granted he used to have it as well, but considering all the nadgering he took in the latest book, he's kept that, and it's very, very useful. So Magic saw a magic missile hit the poor chariots, and Soul Quench is a scary magic missile. So saw Soul Quench hit them, actually killed one chariot and put the other one of that unit down to 1 wound. And this was great. And I then threw Walk Between Worlds at my Chameleon Skinks. And suddenly my opponent's staring at this, realizing if he lets us through, he's got a unit of Chameleon Skinks behind his lines that's going to just go one by one through all of his war machines, and he can live without that. So turn 1 I draw out his Dispel Scroll, and that was amazing. So Dispel Scroll down turn 1, and then I managed to start shooting, and as we can see from the next from the next image, I did manage to panic those spiders, and the spiders managed to panic the war machine as well. So that's fantastic. Those skinks are obviously on borrowed time because the savages are going to have their way with them. But for actually 2 rounds of spiders being out of my hair, and of 1 round less being shot by a doom diver, those chameleons have just paid for themselves right there. So that's Lizard's turn 1. Okay, seems I've misplaced any photographs of his next turn, so I'm going to do a quick overview of it. The Mangler Squig shoved forward as far as it can. It's a little bit on my side of where that Carnosaur is in the picture. The chariot charged into my Croxigors and got promptly butchered. The pump wagon shoved on forward. It's actually a little in front of where his trolls and those Croxies are in that picture. His squig hoppers dived into the forest, which turned out to be a wildwood, which over the course of the game would kill almost half of that unit of Croxigors. And his doom diver rallied, his spiders rallied, and the savages obviously charged those chameleon skinks, which they duly had their way with. His shooting did quite a bit of damage to my skinks, but otherwise not a whole lot. And he managed to, with the doom diver, stick 1 wound on my poor Carnosaur, who's not thrilled with this notion either. Okay, so onto my turn. My Croxies charged his pump wagon, which, as you can see, they killed. My Carnosaur moved up there, and what he's actually done there is he's using that wall to protect himself from fanatics and triggered fanatics. Fortunately, those fanatics did trigger and went straight through my Croxigors, because, needing about a 10 distance is not a problem for angry fanatics. And the fanatics managed to knock off 2 or 3 Croxigors. Well, not 2 or 3, they knocked off 2 Croxigors. So I was less than thrilled with that, especially with having fanatics stuck in the middle of my lines. Really interesting use of Walk Between Worlds cropped up over here, because where you see those red Saurus warriors, that was in fact a Mangler Squig, and with Walk Between Worlds turning them ethereal during the magic phase, you just plop them straight on top of the Mangler Squig. They take 3d6 strength 6 hits that are not magical, so it does nothing to them, and the Mangler dies. Fantastic little use of Walk Between Worlds. You also see that I've moved up my salamanders, and this is actually a really nice little use of the salamanders. Up about 10 inches in front of them was the other lone chariot, and they obviously shot that to pieces. But they've put themselves so that there's no way for the squig hoppers to charge my skinks, because those squig hoppers would take out my poor skinks and take out my level 2 wizard with them, and I can live without that. All of the 2 fanatics sitting right there are not fun. The skinks where they are shot out the 3rd fanatic. So all in all, actually quite a comfortable set of phases. The Croxies destroyed the pump wagon and overran into the 2 trolls. Again, quite happy with that. And we can see what it looks like there on the left, where I'm just advancing up on the lines. Obviously he's killed and overran after taking out my poor chameleon skinks. But overall, yeah, that's coming together quite nicely. I'm dealing with most of his chaff. I'm taking a little more punishment on the Croxigors than I'd expected, and yeah, that is an issue, because they really were the damage dealers I was hoping to really buff up and stick into his big guns. But so be it. It's not terrible. As an aside, I dropped Walk Between Worlds after that. I figured I've got 2 uses out of it, and now I'm close enough that I don't need it anymore. And I rolled up on Shadows. I actually rolled up Occam's Mind Razor, which, as we all know, is an amazingly powerful spell. But I really don't like throwing massive amounts of dice, and the whole feel, the whole vibe behind the frog at the moment, especially with high magic, is to spam cheap spells. So I dropped that and I picked up Melkot's Mystifying Miasma. Since between that and Hand of Glory, I now have a lot of ways of just changing that weapon skill differential between the big guns and my weapon skill 3 troops. Can drop him by D3, can raise me. And as a side note, currently my Croxigors are weapon skill of 5. Because Hand of Glory is really that good. Okay, so on to the Goblin response. Okay, so on to the Orking Goblin second turn. This is quite a bit more active. So you can see the Spider Riders trying to get involved in the game again. These the Savage Orcs decide to reform, and they're now looking to start get aggressive. Again, these Savage Orc Bowmen are a nice idea, but considering their primary use is still to hit things, I do think they'd be better off just wielding twin choppers. We see these the Squeakhoppers have dived into the Razordons, and an interesting side note, Razordons are quick to fire and they have all their special rules for standing and shooting. But yeah, random movement doesn't allow any stand and shoot, so we actually have one of the few ways of getting around that. So in they go. And the second unit of Squeakhoppers, shame, they needed an 8 to get in, on 3d6. That's what they needed to help out the trolls, and they rolled a 6. It was just, yeah, sometimes it's just not your day. But such is life. We can see there's a fanatic that went back through the poor Croxigors. Poor Croxigors, they really are just, they're taking it from fanatics, they're taking it from trolls, from chariots, from the forest. These guys are just getting pounded on this game. And yeah, you can see here that these the goblins are in no great hurry to lock horns with the big monster. And yeah, I feel robbed, damn it. I've got a T-Rex on the table. I want him to eat things. Why else do you put a T-Rex down? Anyway, can't really blame them, but damn it, he wants to eat. So we get into the results of all of this, and unsurprisingly, with higher initiative, Razordons just butcher those poor Squeakhoppers before they can even fight. And I mean, this is the tragedy of Squeakhoppers. It's a similar problem for Sensor Bearers actually, although Sensor Bearers have a slightly higher initiative. Anything with a higher initiative, or ASF, or anything Elven, strikes before you, your toughness 3, you just die too quickly. So yes, the Squeakhoppers got munched by the Razordons, but again, those Razordons have some really nice stats. They fight well in combat, they shoot well. I really am a great fan of them. We then look here, and yeah, with regen, he's doing very well, and his trolls start bashing away at my Croxigors. So I managed to knock down one troll. He'd taken one wound from the fanatic, yes. And he bashes down a full Croxigor. It ended up 3 wounds to 2, and with my charge, a drawn combat. So that troll's just sticking around and being a pain in everything. It's worth noting his animosity. He's had 2 rounds of animosity, or he has 2 rounds, so I think this round and the next round, of just bashing his big guns with his with his Savage Orc BSB. And granted, it's better than him kind of ambling around like an idiot, but that considering the whittling down that happens to that poor unit, you can't really afford that. The animosity again is not... I think it's a terrible rule, to be honest. But yes, that's an argument for another day. So we see the net result there is they're quite safe. And protected by all of those. I mean, if I break that troll, I don't really want to overrun because I'm going to go straight over a fanatic. And we see on this side, this is a really interesting one. Because we both used up our Dispel Scroll so early, we all pretty much have free reign in the magic phase. And he managed to get Hand of Gork through. This was another round, by the way, where he out-channeled me something dramatic. He triple-sixed his channeling. It was a 2-2 for magic, and I got one channel through. With the skink, might I add. Not with the slan. The slan with his channeling staff and 3 dice isn't channeling. But the skink priest is doing fantastic work here. So here's 7 dice versus my 3. This wasn't a pretty phase. You can see damage there from Doom Divers to that poor Saurus block. But the big thing is that Hand of Gork has pulled that unit of savages right around to come menacing my bunker. And now this is obviously a problem. But it's not too much of a problem. Again, we have the units and we have the maneuverability. So that's the end of Orc and Goblin turn 2. And yeah, next up we see the Lizard response. Alrighty, next Lizard turn. So now we have the Razordons doing precisely what they were brought to the table to do. Put a serious dent in big infantry blocks. And yeah, the target's just waiting for them. There's plenty enough in the way. Very excited to see them do what they were brought to the table to do now. And we see over here, with 1 wound on him, these Carnosaur has charged into the Night Goblins. Now we know we can never kill them, but there are too many Doom Divers that he's trying to dodge at the moment. And the guy on top has been quite lucky. He's taken about 3 or 4 Doom Diver hits so far. And he's just been very lucky that the Doom Divers have failed to wound on a 4+. Because all of his defense is armor save. It's a 1+ rerollable armor save. And that doesn't help you against Doom Divers, so he's been a very nervous boy, and it's time for him to get out of the open, because the Doom Divers are scaring him. So in he dives, he's a T-Rex, it's time for him to eat things. Yeah, perfectly fair enough. He has a blurry close-up of him, sporting his 1 wound. We see they actually tried to help him, the red Saurus warriors, but they need an 8 to charge. It was a long shot. So be it. If they'd managed it, I could have ground down those Night Goblins, but it wasn't going to happen. And then we see this side. Now here's where life gets interesting. So the frog leaves the safety of, the very dubious safety of the skink cohorts, and he joins the skink skirmishers. And the skink cohorts do a swift reform and get right in the way of the savage orc big guns. Combine that with the blue unit of Saurus warriors that's reformed to face the big guns, and we're looking to abuse frenzy and get ourselves a nice flank or a rear charge on those savage orcs. Sorry, they're not big guns. So really looking to push out to kill off the savages. More importantly, I'm looking to get rid of that damn shaman. And yeah, here's hoping. It's not a lot of points in the actual orcs, but in the chamois it's quite big. Otherwise I would have just let them run off to the rear and not care. And Magic Phase turned out rather interesting, because now the frog has, not pictured over here, is the skink priest who's gone into the middle of nowhere, just so I can channel a bit. And so the skink priest started off with Harmonic Convergence. Remember I was saying about the little spells? So he's trying to cast Harmonic Convergence on my Razordons. And you know, you only have to get about halfway through explaining what the spell does before your opponent is desperately reaching for his Dispel dice or scroll if he has one. It's a great way to draw dice out. And so that drew dice out very quickly. And with the cheap casting cost of everything, the frog had free reign. and that meant I got Hand of Glory on the Razordons, got them to Ballistic Skill 6. I managed to get Arcane Unforging off, which killed off the Iron Curse icon and didn't hurt the BSB. It's a pity. I managed to get through, what else? It's quite sad that there's even an else. I got through Apotheosis on 1 dice, which healed up the wound of the Carnosaur. And I managed to trade out then Apotheosis and Arcane Unforging, getting myself Wisdom's Wild Form. And then I was pushing for Spirit Leech because I was looking at the way this is going and figured I needed a snipe because there's a good chance I don't get into combat with his big orc block, or at least not on my turns. Except that I rolled up Soul Blight, and that's one of those few spells where I say, you know what, this is good enough, let's sod the damns. Spirit Leech, Soul Blight is amazing, so I kept Soul Blight. And yeah, excellent magic phase. So here we see the results of a less than excellent combat phase. Oh, sweet baby J, my poor T-Rex. So at strength 6 and 4 attacks, the Scarvet throws everything he has into the Goblin War Boss. And he hits twice, and needing 2s to wound, he Snake Eyes it. Nothing. The Goblin War Boss strikes back and puts 2 wounds onto the Carnosaur. The Carnosaur also wants to kill the War Boss. In fact, he did this before the War Boss struck. 4 attacks, 1 hit, again needs a 2 to wound with D3 wounds, and he also rolls that 1. So far 0 wounds from the T-Rex and his buddy, and 2 wounds against. The Goblins do nothing, and Thunderstomp. Thunderstomp is great, 5 hits, which became 2 wounds. So at the end of it all, that's right, that's a T-Rex and his buddy losing by 3 to Goblins. Good news is that he's cold-blooded and he manages to hold. See, when your dice are rolling 1s and 2s, least they can do is have the decency to keep it up when you roll a break test, and they did, so well done for that, I suppose. Yeah. Something like that. And then here we just see the results of both the Razordon shooting and, oh, look at that. That's between, there were another 4 dead from earlier Animosity I was talking about, and 9 dead big guns. I mean, this was just not their day. But that's it. Ballistic Skill 6 Razordons are terrifying, and that's what they do. And the Croxigores are still bashing it out with that troll. Nobody wants to go anywhere. Regen is really holding me up dramatically. Good news is, well, his turn coming up and he can't charge because that troll just won't die. Okay, so on to Orcs and Goblin turn 3. So Orcs and Goblin turn 3. Not all that many photos here, but some interesting results. We can see here the result of a charge into my Skinks, and the Skinks held. Cold-blooded is broken. The Skinks actually held. I was quite impressed, and you know what, with a 5+ armor, 6+ parry, so 4+ armor with the choppers, not 4+, 6+ armor with choppers, they're not terrible, and yeah, they held up a Savage Orc charge, which was great. They needed a 3 to hold, so you know, let's not go singing their praises too highly. The frog started taking a lot of kind of dangerous punishment. There are Foot of Gorks flying around, and I mean, Foot of Gorks stomped about 4 times and just kept scattering off the frog because he wasn't happy. There was a Doom Diver that I think I forgot to talk about last round that took out my Skink Priest. But yeah, overall, Magic has been very nerve-wracking, but on the whole survivable. And we see over here, finally, I managed to kill that, I killed that troll in his turn. And yes, my Saurus Scarvet kills his wizard, and with 2 wounds stuck on, the Carnosaur actually eats the Orc War Boss. Not Orc, the Goblin War Boss. So finally they're doing something, and you can see the casualties pulled at the back there. We're slowly whittling down that unit. So it's taking hard work, but down it goes. And yeah, this Fanatic's getting closer and closer. I don't think I have a picture of it, but that Fanatic goes straight through. No, it doesn't go straight through, it just ambles on. It's just staying in the way, which is good in a way, but yeah, the Fanatic's a pain. So a relatively uneventful turn for the Orcs and Goblins, although obviously with the Savages that was not what he wanted to see. So Lizard's turn 4, and again not a whole lot of movement now that everything's stuck in. We see the Saurus Warriors have flanked the Savage Orcs, as is their right, damn it, they worked hard for it. And we can see the Razordons now pulling up to the side, and I've changed them up into a 3x2 formation because now I actually want them to get into combat. So I'm setting them up to be able to charge in a round's time. And obviously that shooting has him fairly scared. I know I can draw Dispel Dice towards Hand of Glory, or if I don't, hey, just as good. And the Croxigors have moved up to really get in their way, and the Croxigors are on borrowed time, but jeez, they've done a lot. I think they've earned a break. So good luck to them. Magic now sees him in a really difficult position, where again he's channeling well, but he has to basically choose between allowing Hand of Glory off on the Razordons or Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma to drop his weapon skill on his Savages. And he ends up taking it on the chin with the Savages, which, okay, so be it. That means I'm still shooting at short range with my Razordons, or some of them anyway, needing 5s or 4s to hit. Hey, they're still quite dangerous. So yeah, they're very happy with that. And we head on off to the result of all that combat. Well, before then you can actually see the damage that the Savages have, that the big guns have taken. They're not pleased. And then we see it's over here, the poor Savages, well, they've just taken it in the neck. They've been broken, but they managed to outrun both of them. So they're holding out for another round. That little dice there is one wound that the Great Shaman has taken, but really they're running for their lives. They're not happy with this at all. And yeah, and obviously the Carnosaur and the Scarvet just keep on whittling away at that unit of that poor unit of goblins, but there are so many of them. They're leadership 9 with a reroll steadfast. Yeah, it's a long grind. I mean, he's taking off about 10 a round, but the sad thing is that really isn't enough. Okay, and that's all she wrote for Lizard turn 4. Okay, so for the rest of the game, pictures are a little bit sparse, so we'll go through what we have. But it's fairly swift and brutal. So he manages to rally, but his magic doesn't do a whole lot. And as you can see, after that I charge in with both of the Saurus units and with the skin cohorts. And yes, we managed to break and this time run them down. So there we managed to deal with that little issue. On the other side over here, we can see on the next turn, the Night Goblins actually managed to fail a break test. They failed the leadership 9 reroll, they failed the reroll, and run down by a swift striding Carnosaur. So that was quite impressive. In the middle of all that dead pile is actually a panicked bolt thrower, which he's into now, because he's frenzied. He has no real say in the matter. Which is a pity. I would have liked to restrain with him and hit these big guns in the flank, but couldn't happen. The big guns charged the Croxigores, and surprising absolutely no one, they absolutely butchered the Croxigores. And he overran. He was hoping to catch my Saurus warriors, the red Saurus. And he had the most atrocious luck. He ran 1 inch short. His overrun was 10. He needed an 11 to catch the Saurus warriors. But because of that 10, he actually overran to the point that he got into the Saurus warrior flank. Now, if I could front charge him, he was okay. Even a rear was okay. And if he obviously hit me, that was great. But he managed to overrun all the way into into the point where I could get a flank charge off, and that was just horrific for him. So at that point, I charge in with both these Razordons and with the Saurus, one on each flank. So both of his characters go to meet the Saurus, and here again I have a very strong magic phase. He's now without, or actually not yet. This is the last turn that he has a Great Shamans. He's still got a +4 to Dispel, but I managed to get quite a bit of magic through. I managed to get Hand of Glory off on my Saurus warriors, which to be honest wasn't all that effective, but I got Soul Blight off on his big guns, and that was huge. By getting Soul Blight off on his big guns, now suddenly my Razordons are wounding on 2s. I'm cancelling his chopper for 1 round, and yeah, there's just only so much damage you can do. My 4+ armor save on the Saurus warriors actually matters, and now suddenly it's quite scary. And the Razordons go crazy. He doesn't let me get Malkuth's Mystifying Miasma off, but so be it. And yeah, I do enough damage that I win combat by, I think it was 5, and I crack the unit. And so the unit runs off towards this edge of the board with me pursuing. That's actually the view after this run. I've charged again, and he just keeps on running, and that unit actually fails to rally and dies on the side of the board, which is very, very sad for them. And then we just have a final view of the end where I finally run down his Orc Big Gun unit. Not Big Gun, his Savage Orc unit with the Shaman. And that's the end of it. Well done to the Lizards. So just as a quick roundup, I'm just going to do a brief overview of the units, considering, hey, it's a new book and people aren't sure what to expect. So the Frog, I love high magic. I traded out 4 spells during this game. The one spell that everyone's obsessed with is the one I never used, which was didn't even try to cast it, which was Wissen's Wild Form. But I can find a use for damn near everything. It's such a versatile lore, and what it doesn't have I can trade for. I love the new Lizardmen magic phase. I like the Skink Cohort bunker. It's cheap. I'm not scared to get my Saurus into combat because of him. Really, really valuable. The Skink Skirmishers, I know everyone loves them, but honestly, I'm not all that impressed. The only real reason I like them is they're a nice, easy way to move around and give some protection to our level 2 Skink Priest. I like the Heavens. It presents a viable threat that lets me cast my high magic. And if I can cast my high magic, I've got all the versatility I've been bragging about. So that's great. I love the Razordons. I know half of Lustria online, and the entirety of Warseer dislike them, but damn, these guys are versatile. They're not as good anti-infantry as Salamanders, but they've got that versatility. I could shoot out the chariot. I couldn't have done that with Salamanders. They're not going to shoot out the chariot, not unless I get really lucky. They can hunt the smaller things that you just can't really target with Salamanders. And they provide a valuable target for early game for Hand of Glory, and to be able to draw out that scroll early is massive. So yeah, I like that. I like the Croxigores, but they really didn't perform all that well this game. To be honest, they took all of the punishments, all of the kind of early game harassment punishment that they could, but really, they die a little bit easy. I'm still going to keep playing them a bit, but they take a lot of punishments. I don't think they're kind of easy include in most armies. Chameleons, of course, are always amazing. Saurus warriors are great. I have no complaints. I don't know why anyone would talk them down. I think that's about all. Oh, the T-Rex. Oh, really? The T-Rex? Oh, I love him. He's such a pretty model. He's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He still takes wounds too easily. He still needs another wound. But he just makes for a nice threat. He's pretty much my biggest answer in this list to Monstrous Cav, although the Croxies are obviously a second answer. I think he serves a purpose, but he's definitely... he's not the model you look at and say, ha, this is the most amazing thing on the field. He serves a purpose, but he's definitely he's a flawed include, a little bit like Stalkers and Tomb Kings. They serves a purpose, useful, but bit of a flawed design. Okay, hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, feel free to leave any comments below. This is only my second game with the new Lizards. If I cocked anything up, speak up. Cheers.